Before Baghdad became a legend, before it became a capital, before it became the heart of an empire, Baghdad was first an idea, not a city that grew by accident, not a settlement that slowly expanded, but a city planned, measured, and placed with intention. In this episode of History Showcase, we're not just telling the story of Baghdad, we're walking through why it was built here, how it was designed, and what made it the most influential city of its age. This is not just the history of a city. This is the story of urban vision, geography, and power combined. Baghdad's story is too vast to be told in a single episode, so we are exploring it as a journey in three parts. The city and its economic foundations, the minds that shaped the world, and the legacy that followed. This is part 1. The Rise of Baghdad. Baghdad stands on the Tigris River, a river that did more than carry water. It carried life, food, and movement. The land around the Tigris was flat and fertile. Canals branched out like veins, feeding fields of wheat, dates, and vegetables. Green belts followed the riverbanks, turning the surrounding land into a natural breadbasket. This wasn't a harsh desert city. It was a river city, sustained by agriculture and irrigation. To the west flowed the Euphrates. To the east lay Persia. And between them sat a crossroads linking Arabia, Central Asia, Anatolia, and India. Baghdad wasn't chosen randomly. It was chosen because everything passed through here. In the 8th century, the Abbasids did something rare. They designed a capital from scratch. Baghdad was founded by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur, also known as Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. Construction of the city, originally named Medinat Salam, the City of Peace, began on July 30th, 762 CE. Al-Mansur, the second caliph of Abbasid dynasty, commissioned and designed the planned capital as a round city on the west bank of Tigris River, near an older village also called Baghdad. At the center stood the main structures of authority. Roads radiated outward like spokes of a wheel. Markets, neighborhoods, and institutions were arranged deliberately. This design was not just aesthetic. It was administrative logic turned into architecture. Builders, planners, and engineers worked with precision. Clean streets, organized districts, and controlled access points shaped daily life. Baghdad was not chaos. It was structure made visible. Baghdad was more than a seat of rulers. It was a meeting point of worlds. Merchants arrived with goods from China, India, Africa, and Byzantium. Administrators moved between offices and markets. Judges listened to disputes. Scholars debated ideas. Messengers carried orders across continents. Different languages echoed in the streets. Different cultures moved side by side. Baghdad functioned not just as a capital, but as a circulatory system for the empire. This was not a city of isolation. It was a city of constant motion. At the heart of Baghdad, Jami' al-Mansur, the Grand Mosque of al-Mansur, was constructed. Historical sources describe it as a quadrangle approximately 100 yards by 100 yards on each side, giving a roughly square footprint of around 8,281 square meters. This mosque was not only a place of worship and prayer, but also symbolized the integration of religious and political authority, center of peace and unity, serving the growing population. During Baghdad's early years as a hub of Islamic world, here, daily life aligned. Worship, learning, discussions, and public gatherings flowed together. Merchants paused, scholars met, and citizens gathered under one roof. The mosque anchored Baghdad not only in faith, but in order, identity, and shared civic life. It reminded the city that prosperity was strongest when power, knowledge, and morality stood side by side. At the heart of this system stood Bait al-Mal, the public treasury. From the outside, it appeared solid and dignified. Inside, it was alive with activity. Officials recorded revenues. Funds were allocated. Accounts were checked. This was not wealth locked away. This was wealth managed. Taxes, zakat, and public funds flowed through structured channels. Money moved with rules, oversight, and documentation. The Abbasids understood something crucial. An empire does not survive on conquest alone. It survives on administration. Nearby stood the imperial palace, a symbol of authority, but also coordination. Inside the court, decisions were debated. Advisors consulted records. Courtiers carried instructions. Power in Baghdad was not only enforced, it was processed. Law, finance, infrastructure, and policy met here. The city functioned because decisions were centralized, yet systematic. Beyond administration stood something even more remarkable. The House of Wisdom. This was not a palace. It was not a mosque. It was a knowledge institution. Books were gathered. Texts translated. Sciences studied. Baghdad invested in knowledge not as decoration, but as a tool of governance. Astronomy guided calendars. Mathematics supported trade and taxation. Geography mapped routes. Knowledge was not separate from the city. It was embedded within it. Baghdad's economy reached far beyond its walls. Governors collected zakat and public revenues in markets and fields alike. In fertile wheat lands, harvests were assessed with care. In cities, commerce was monitored and recorded. But this was not random extraction. It was organized contribution. Zakat did not disappear into distant treasuries. It returned directly to society, supporting the poor, assisting widows and orphans, helping travelers, and easing hardships where it existed. Revenue flowed back as roads, canals, security, and public services, but also as social balance, ensuring prosperity did not remain locked in a few hands. The city worked because its countryside worked, and the countryside worked because it was connected, protected, and supported by the city. Baghdad never stood still. Roads were built and expanded. Buildings rose. Streets widened. People walked through wide avenues, surrounded by homes, shops, and gardens. The city grew not in chaos, but in layers. This was urban growth with intent, not uncontrolled sprawl. Baghdad was not perfect, but it was extraordinary. It proved that a city would be planned with intention, governed through system, sustained by knowledge, connected through geography. Baghdad was not just a capital. It was a model of how cities could function at high scale. Its buildings may have faded, but its ideas still travel. And history, as always, waits not to be admired, but to be understood. If you value history that explains how societies worked, not just who ruled, then this is your place. Subscribe to History Showcase. View its full episodes. And join us as we continue uncovering the systems behind the past.